Okay, so the technique that we're going to look at now is the hip bump sequence. Okay, so it can offer us some sweeps and some attacks on the arm, eventually into a few other submissions as well. Okay, so from here, I start off in my closed guard, okay, like this. This generally tends to be set up as if the person's chest starts low with you on your body, and then they start to spring themselves up from this position. This is where I would generally set this hip bump sequence from, okay? What's important here is that I'm up. You see that my left arm traps the tricep, and I'm up on my arm as well from this position, okay? Don't need to necessarily have it all the way out here, but I have to have his arm trapped and some form of base here. It's really difficult, almost impossible if you're doing it with your elbow on the floor. So as Joe starts the posture from this position, my right elbow comes up and my left arm starts to trap. I like to do it by making a fist here like this and tucking it in between that space between the elbow and his ribs, or between my thigh, okay? So here like this, as opposed to just grabbing, okay? This is a tighter grip. So now from here, I go up on my arm. Because I have this grip, I can now afford to open my closed guard. The power comes from my feet on the floor, pushing, allowing my hips to come off the floor as well. So now I push towards my right hand side, and I get my sweep from this position. This is a very good sweep for beginners, especially in terms of competition. You get 6 points for that in a standard competition, 2 for the sweep, and you generally go straight into a mount from there. So our next technique from this position is going to be attacking the arm for the Kimura from here. So I come up on this elbow. I start to come up, make a fist, feet go on the floor. Joe's chest sort of starts to move towards me this time, of which this is hard to get. Now, as opposed to having this here, then setting this up, I like to have this fist blocking and creating the wedge first on him. That means that if he wants to get his arm back, it's very difficult for him to get rid of that position. Whereas if I grab his wrist, there's a chance that he can circle his hand out and pull it out. So if my arm is basically almost like an overhook, it's like a reverse overhook from here. I make a fist towards my body, here like this. I start to come up and try and attempt my sweep. Now, his chest comes back towards me, my right arm starts to grab his wrist, okay? I can either grab here like this, or I can do the traditional grip of 4 fingers, okay? Now I might start to get my wrist grabs my other wrist from this position, and now I want to angle my body. I don't want to keep my guard closed. To make the Kimura more powerful, you see I move my leg across his back, and ideally I can shift my other leg and my knee. So if you see from here, my knees, just get this here. If you watch my left knee, they're both clamping. So now I move his wrist back towards his shoulder, and his arm should look like a corner from this position at a right angle. If it's straight, it's less effective, and if it's really bent, it's less effective. So I want it here. The other thing as well is the reason why I have these as well, is that if Joe does decide to posture, there are other subs that we can move into from there. I'll go into that in a moment. So now this time, I come up from the hip bump, here like this. Joe starts to posture. Maybe his arm is tucked in. Maybe I'm having a hard time getting my fist in this position. You always have to improvise in jiu-jitsu. And now you see that his head, a front headlock concept, is lower than my chin, okay? At first, if I try to make this reach, it's going to be really difficult. But I come all the way up, I commit to the sweep, but his chest blocks me and he bases. Now I start to wrap up the neck from that position, connect my hands, here like this, and here, same thing, my knee against the body, and I push my hips in from that position to get the tap. This time, okay, so we've got the sweep, the Kimura, and the guillotine. Now we're going to add in the triangle from here. I come up, here, he bases, I get the guillotine. His right arm is now, we're just going to adjust this way, his right arm starts to grab my fist from this position. You see, we've now got a situation where it's one arm in, almost one arm in and one eye, okay? From here, he's trying to pull my fist away, but I can escape my other knee over that arm and start setting up the triangle from there. There we go. So that is our hip bump sequence.